Hey everyone, this is the last, and I'm not going to name the number of this podcast series where we're talking about the cost of ultra-wideband, and it's pretty much just a summary of what we went over before and filling in the gaps where we clearly forgot to add some additional items as well.
And if you were smart enough to read all the titles ahead of time and skipped directly to this video, boy will you be rewarded, because it's a summary of all the ones we already rambled about for minutes on end.
Okay, quick summary, and we'll try to keep this brief. Perception is out there that UWB systems are relatively expensive, and maybe they don't track very much items, and maybe they only have niche applications, and we want to dispel all of those items. So from the installation, so Logan, fill us in.
So installation, we've cut a lot of the services and time out, right? So we can send one person to a site, do a whole site survey, we call it a site walk, in half a day to about 2 days if you have a very large campus site, right? So we're cutting time out there. Usually this is a self-install. It's small antennas.
Right.
We're going to box this up, send it directly to the site. You can hire the third party that you're used to using, or just your facilities and maintenance crew that you already have on hand to use. So we're cutting costs out there. You're not charging us to go up and install it. And the third part of that process is those antennas do not have to be tuned and aimed in any way. And so if the installers put them a little off of the map where they are, when we show up to calibrate the site and commission it and go live, it takes us about 2 to 3 days. And when we leave the site, wherever you put a tag, there's a dot on the map. So we've cut out a lot of time, which means we've cut out a lot of money in services during those processes.
And just to add on top of that, maintenance costs are pretty low because it's pretty tolerant to changes in the environment. So you're not having to call your UWB provider to come out and fix things every time equipment moves around, or
it's good to mention.
something shifts around, or they replan the plant.
Yeah, I think machines move around pretty frequently. These are usually going to be put up in the rafters, and so you don't actually have to worry about. We do software defined zones. So if you move your machines, just move your zones where you put those new machines, and then your location data stays the same. Don't change the antennas. Don't go back up on the bucket truck. You don't have to do it.
Okay, next one, network. How is this relatively simple and inexpensive? Hardware prices, network deployment, architecture?
Yes, we've made the hardware less expensive, less cumbersome in general. We're usually a order of magnitude less in terms of each reader or each antenna, whatever you want to call it. And we've also made it, there's an in and an out, so you can daisy chain these as opposed to all home run. So that's less cabling and less time up in the lift. And that cuts out costs as well from a CapEx and just getting the site set up and paying those contractors to do it.
And you're not paying external, the UW company to hire experts to do the installation for you. You can use your regular facilities as an opportunity to lower costs. It doesn't require highly trained individuals to do that installation.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, the other item is the calibration. So sometimes systems can be fairly complex and can take a long time to calibrate. How does WISER reduce costs that way?
Right, so once the system is in place and it's all been daisy chained, we come back out, as I mentioned, about 2 or 3 days. It can be even less for a smaller facility, only just 1 day. Again, they don't have to be tuned, they don't have to be aimed, so they're just up in the ceiling. We're going to do everything else on software. And so we leave that plant after a few days. You're going to have dots on the map of wherever you put a tag.
Great. So fairly simple calibration system. You don't need a highly trained workforce to spend weeks on it. Simply go there, spend a day or so on it, get it done, and then that's it.
And when it comes to expansions after that, a lot of times folks like to absorb that information. And so if you have a new building or a new add-on, which is very common in manufacturing, a lot of times they're going to be able to do a lot of that work themselves. They're going to order some hardware. We're going to do a quick screen share, 30 minutes to an hour, pump those antennas in, you're done. There's nobody coming out with a laser backpack. We don't even have to do another survey, right? Oh, just put another row of antennas in, done and done.
I'm going to add that to my new vocabulary, laser backpack. That's a good one.
I've seen it. That's why I mention it.
Software and licensing, how is that different? And that probably goes to scaling and the number of items you can track as well.
Right. Yeah. So we're a very scaled system, which I think is rarer in our industry. So we're doing tens of thousands of tags typically. And a lot of whip shops are going to have somewhere between a few hundred at the minimum to a few thousand. And our larger shops have between about 15 and 20,000 items that are scaled. And so we've built the system to not only accommodate that, but encourage it. And part of that is the pricing, right? So total cost. And part of that is the hardware itself, the tags. You replace the battery, right? And the batteries last a very long time, a few years. So you're not running around replacing them. And then when they do go, you just open them up, put a new CR2032 in, right? So
and they come in different colors.
They do. You have orange. We have
orange.
Yellow. We have orange. We have yellow.
So, yes.
And gray.
And just to dispel the myth, our system doesn't just track 100 or 200 and then, top off after that. It's thousands of assets or tens of thousands of assets.
Yeah.
That greatly expands the use case or applications that it can be.
At high ping rates, I'll say. So, yeah, you can have tens of thousands of assets all chirping once a second while they're in motion, right? And so that's one way that we've made it scalable to make it easier. The other is on the license side. Operationally, you don't need to be spending money on extra things that you really shouldn't be charged for when we're trying to encourage growth and encourage return on investment. So we do not charge per seat of using the system. You can have it on as many desks as you want, people tracking, searching, finding, and managing. We don't charge for that, and we definitely don't charge per the data that you're generating. Think about tens of thousands of tags all chirping once a second. That's a lot of really good data to optimize and see where your bottlenecks are in your flow. We don't want to charge for that. And then we don't want to overcharge for expanding your system. So instead of having a large ramp rate of what we cost to keep the system big, we've engineered it to already be accommodating as much as possible. So our maintenance and our efforts to keep your site going are very low, so we can pass those savings on to you. So we don't overcharge for large sites because the system has been built to do it, essentially.
I think that almost covers everything. Maybe just from the point of view of interface, it's a fairly direct interface. You can use database to access it or API access to access it and integrate into your backend system. But maybe that's a whole podcast for a different time.
Yeah, we've gone through all of this without actually showing anything about the system. So we'll have to do that at some point so everyone can
I thought
see.
that was your first webinar.
Yeah. True.
So just to reiterate, installation is pretty straightforward. You can leverage your own facilities. The cost of hardware is relatively inexpensive. The scalability, both in terms of how many you can track and the ability to expand beyond your first building to multiple buildings, for example, or expand within a building, is pretty straightforward. And then for charging on license fees, it's not a linear relationship between how many seats you have or how many API calls you have, so you keep those costs low as well. Am I missing anything?
I'm sure we missed something. But that's a relatively good summary of where we're at. It's a lot of different things that all add up to be a total cost of ownership, a relatively affordable system that actually gives you return on investment, right? So smaller shops, you can have a smaller price and get going right away, and you're not priced out. You can have, I've done many 40,000 square foot shops with a few hundred active orders of WIP. Plenty of shops that size that can do it. You're not priced out in that way.
So I think we're at the end of this podcast. Appreciate everyone's time, and then we'll come up with some more topics for future weeks. So thanks so much.
Thanks.